guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Woke is dead. I'm calling it. It's official. It's dead. It's on its last grasp of breath. There's only a couple of holdouts as they struggle to fight the plastic bag that is over their head. They're not going to last much longer. Churches that have adopted the rainbow flag as their new Lord and Savior, LGHD TV events around the country, even many governments are starting to push back against it because they have bigger problems. There's a couple of holdouts that are still left. Yes, you have Sesame Street here that is still, but you notice they didn't change their logo up here, but they did post this, and it got a lot of likes on it. Truth is, though, you have to remember they're publicly funded, and currently the Trump administration's trying to get them defunded from public funds. But when you have your money coming from the government, it's pretty easy to keep going with your nonsense, especially when you're aiming that towards the youngest of our generation. And yes, they just posted up the other day. They had a show where they've got a very flamboyant, bearded man with long hair dancing and prancing around as he introduced various things to kids. However, if you remember over the last, 4 or 5 years, whatever it's been, probably longer back, going back to 2017, for some of these companies, whether it was Amazon, whether it was PETA, whether it was Vice News, whether it was gaming companies, footwear, you name it, everybody had changed their banners to celebrate June, being Pride Month. But I got a couple of shocks for you that'll actually surprise you. First, of course, many of these companies are not changing their badges, and they're not changing them in any country. This is from Asmongold. He has a couple-minute clip. I'll just go ahead and play it here. He's gone very viral on the web recently. Good on him. How you go from World of Warcraft video game player to news and social commentary, and one of the biggest ones on Twitch, I don't know, but good on him. Good on him. I hope he keeps up the good work.
No change. Microsoft? No change. Xbox? No change. Disney? No change. Target? No change. Starbucks? Even Starbucks roached out on the gays? Of all the people to roach out on the gays, you're going to expect Starbucks to do it? Damn. Wow. Okay, let's see here. Bank of America? No change. Nothing. What about Blizzard? No change. What about World of Warcraft? Also no change. Google's homepage? Let me see. Google. Nothing. Actually nothing. Even the Google homepage. Wow. It might actually be over this year. Holy shit. Or not really over, but like the mass corporate support for it might be over. There's no way Overwatch didn't make any posts about Pride. There's no shot. Like, if that's true, then it's really dead. Well, guys, Trump outlawed Pride Month, I guess. It's done. It's over.
Well, the government did squash down on it, obviously. I think the corporations have learned it's too much of a hot topic to touch. They're staying away from it. They're just going to move on. The social media attention that they get is not translating into real-world money. It's not translating into sales or anything else. And companies are realizing, yes, okay, we might get some pushback online. We might get maybe some love online, but that doesn't equate to real-world numbers or real-world support or real-world money. So the companies are starting to realize we are pandering to the 5%, the 10%. Even if you look into the fact of how many young people today are kind of falling in line with the LGHD TV stuff, whether you want to call that social contagion or whatever you want to call it, the young people today don't have any money. And so bending over backwards to placate these young people who don't have any money versus the rest of the working class and normal families that don't want this stuff in their content, I think the businesses are starting to get the idea. Then you've got real world events that are failing. Boise Pride season kicked off, canceled due to low attendance. Pride season kickoff, initially scheduled for June 6th, has been canceled due to insufficient attendance despite strong online enthusiasm. Online enthusiasm does not equal real enthusiasm. The Democrats found this out about Kamala Harris, and the LGHD TV is finding this out because There are bot farms. You can buy social media engagement. I'm sure there are other countries or other governments that are happy to throw this wrench into the American and Western zeitgeist, messing things up. But the real world is telling a very different story. And this does include churches and other things, but I'll get to that in a minute. Then we come over here. Now, this is from Jonathan Cho, and they're sharing a Frontlines TP USA event. And I think this is kind of telling because it shows you who these weird Antifa / LGHD TV people are. I'm going to play this for a minute. You've got two groups here, a conservative, Christian, church-going crowd that showed up to praise and to have an event. And then you had the crazies showing up that were threatening to throw crap at them. Literal crap, dog crap. And it doesn't take much to kind of have to step back a little bit and say, who's probably on the right side of history?
In a show of spiritual force, hundreds of Christians and their allies went scorched earth on Mayor Bruce Harrell outside Seattle City Hall. Pastor Russell Johnson led the charge, demanding an apology or a resignation from Harrell after he labeled their peaceful concert at Cal Anderson Park over the weekend an extreme right-wing rally. Then blamed the evangelicals as Johnson continued to pick apart the mayor's abysmal record in office. He announced the White House was aware of what was going on in Seattle and would be taking swift action.
Serving a search warrant.
On cue, Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino posted on X, "We have asked our team to fully investigate allegations of targeted violence against religious groups at the Seattle concert. Freedom of religion isn't a suggestion."
Something I'd like to bring attention to, not that you probably didn't see it, but I do want to mention this, is many in attendance are women, and many of the ones speaking, like here's an Asian gentleman, and you can see they're dancing, having a good time. They're not showing any hate against anybody. And even here on the stage, you can see that there's a black gentleman speaking, a black woman behind him. This isn't a problem with race. It's not a problem with gender. It's a problem with ideology. And the one that's getting the pushback is both the mayor and the weirdos that ended up attacking the event. These people had a permit to be there. It was their legal right to be there and have this rally. There was actually a post that went viral, and this is from our Seattle. This shows you who these companies in the past and others have aligned themselves to, the type of person. That they posted the Pursuit Church is the one that threw these pathetic little functions. Looks like they have a couple of locations. I'm not saying that you should save your little dog's poop bags to kindly tithe to the church, but I'm also not saying you shouldn't tithe 10% of your dog's gifts to the church. And then they went ahead and said what time the event was and posted where it was going to be. You have, again, people just wanting to congregate and speak their mind and be peaceful and dance and play music and enjoy themselves. And then you have the other side that is gathering to try to protest and throw feces at the original group. At some point, I think these companies stepped back and they said, you know something? We're on the side of the crazies. This isn't turning out so well for us. Not all of them have gotten it. Many are starting to get it. But one that really surprised me is Ubisoft. Ubisoft acknowledges that June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. No mention of Pride so far. This one shocked me. And I didn't even know, to show you how much, I guess, guys don't pay attention to this stuff. I didn't even know that June was Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. But apparently it is. So how ironic is it that they also decided to make that month Pride Month to kind of undo Men's Mental Health Awareness Month? And a notable, this is from that Park Place, and a notable departure from the past few years, Ubisoft has kicked off the month of June by spotlighting Men's Mental Health Awareness Month with no public mention of pride. It's okay to take off the mask. Strength and vulnerability are not mutually exclusive. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. We'd like to encourage you to reach out to your friends ask them how they're doing, pick up a game together, look out for one another. Based? For instance, in 2023, Ubisoft landed the Together in Pride campaign, emphasizing solidarity and inclusion. So the fact that they went from the pride stuff directly and straight to supporting men, the overwhelmingly number of people that play their games, shows these companies now see the pride and the LGHDTV and all the rest of this. They see it as a hot button warning sign, a red hot flashing do not touch. And I think they've gotten, so the companies are getting away from it. The government is getting away from it because in this video here that I played about the about this event at Turning Point USA, Dan Bongino said that he was going to look into this and find out what's going on with this governor because he's squashing the free speech of the Christians that wanted to have their event. The social media attention that they get is not translating into real world money. It's not translating into sales or anything else. And companies are realizing, yes, okay, we might get some pushback online. We might get maybe some love online, but that doesn't equate to real world numbers or real world support or real world money. Let's face it, these people that are going to these protests and stuff, where is it? These people going to this protest, a lot of them don't have jobs. Now, I'm not talking about the people that are doing the actual, that are members of the church and they're out there speaking their minds at this event. I'm talking about the ones that are running from protest to protest to protest, or picket lines, or standing out front of a Tesla and screaming and yelling. They don't have jobs. As a matter of fact, they're probably paid agitators. Their job is to show up and be a counter whatever to these groups doing these things. And then you've got churches. Now, if you don't know, many Presbyterian or Protestant churches have gotten into the LGHD TV, where you can see here, they've got flags flying outside of a church. And many Western countries have gone through this now for the last, 7 years or however long it's been, 8 years, since 2017 when this started to pick up steam. And many of the religious are saying, you have chosen a new God. Your new God is inclusivity. Your new God is the leftism. Your new God is not what I'm looking for in a church. They say the image of rainbows in church buildings, pride celebrations, and messages such as love is love seem to distract from the crude reality of the LGHD TV inclusive Protestant churches. Below the celebrations of tolerance and diversity, there's a statistical reality of a heavy fall in membership, church attendance, influence, as well as a worrying shortage of church ministers. It's obvious that many causes could be included in the analysis of complex evolution of dying churches, but statistical evidence shows embracing dominant ideologies in society, such as the LGHD TV agenda, is certainly not filling churches with new believers. Now, you might be saying, but Joker, church attendance and belief in religion and Christianity is down overall. That is true. However, there is also some counter-information. From the BBC, young U.S. men are joining Russian churches, promising absurd levels of manliness. They say, a lot of people ask me, Father Moses, how can I increase my manliness to absurd levels? In a YouTube video, a priest is championing a form of virile, unapologetic masculinity. Skinny jeans, crossing your legs, using an iron, shaping your eyebrows, and even eating soup are among the things he derides as too feminine. That's right, real men don't eat soup. We eat stew with a fork. There are other videos of Father Moses McPherson, a powerfully built father of 5, weightlifting to the sound of heavy metal. He was raised a Protestant and once worked as a roofer, but now serves as a priest in the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia in Georgetown, Texas, an offshoot of the Mother Church in Moscow. Rokor, a global network with headquarters in New York, has recently been expanding across parts of the U.S., mainly as a result of people converting from other faiths. He said, when my wife and I converted 20 years ago, we used to call Orthodoxy the best kept secret because people just didn't know what it was. But in the past year and a half, our congregation has tripled in size. Young men are looking for guidance. They're not finding it in the fathers because fathers are missing from homes. Young men are not finding it in the education system, and they're finding the LGHD TV stuff. They're finding all this problematic stuff that says men are bad. Where are young men turning to for masculinity, for guidance, for truth? They're turning to the church, but not just any church, a traditional church that believes in traditional values and preaches the traditional word. It's not to say that this is necessarily the right direction for you, but what it is saying, the businesses have learned this is not the way. They're realizing they shouldn't get into politics. They shouldn't get into social issues. They should zip it, keep their mouth shut, and just sell me product. That's all they're literally good for, because otherwise they're going to pay the price. And then you've got these other events where a lot of people, black, brown, white, male, female, they're showing up to have peace, love, share their ideas, and get together with each other. And weirdos that say that they want to fight, harm people, and throw feces at the group of religious people that are wanting to spread their word. Even people that are not religious, even people that are maybe that are not part of this cultural movement, even they're just deciding, you know something, I got to be on the side of the normal people. These other groups have gone too weird. So maybe it's over. To me, it looks like it's over. Yes, there are going to be some stragglers like Sesame Street and maybe some other government-funded agencies. They don't have to worry about what the public thinks about them. They weren't elected. You know, they're the bureaucrats that were put in place by somebody else, and they have these lifetime appointments. So, of course, they can stay and hang in there with their BS. But the rest of the world's moving on. They've got other things that they're worried about, whether that be income, affording a home, getting a job. They're worried about the immigration issue. Countries are finding, hey, you know something? When we have other problems, real world problems, no one cares about this. We only cared about this when there's no other problems and we need to manufacture a problem. We need to find something else to fight about or argue about or have issues about. But when people don't care about this anymore because they have real world issues that they need to deal with and they're unhappy with, this went to the bottom of the bucket. I think you'll see the trend over the course of the rest of this year that woke just fades into the distance. Yes, you'll have the outliers and the weirdos still trying to fight for this stuff. People are getting tired of it. They want to talk about economics. They want to talk about immigration. They want to talk about affording a home. They want to talk about their families. They want to talk about their lives. They're just moving on. And I, for one, am glad to see it. Guys, if you like my work, make sure to join me down below. If you're on Rumble, click the join button. Join me on betterbachelor.locals.com. We do live stream events. We do lots of movie nights and other things that makes a community. So guys have a place to hang out. You can talk to other like-minded people. You can join us on streams and hang out. We have a good time. It's put behind the paywall, and that way I don't have to worry about copyright when we do a bunch of our movie events and other things like that. If you're on YouTube, it's betterbachelor.locals.com. You can become a supporter. It's $5 a month, not too much. I think going forward, finding community is going to be important. We're in for some very, very crazy times. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. I'll see you in the next one.